Past players, past legends, past legends.
And tonight we're pleased to have on the show Brayden Lyle. 68 games for Port Adelaide in the sample, 39 for East Perth. So we're going to be able to chat comparing the two there. 26 for West Coast, 90 for Port Adelaide, including captaining in their inaugural game. An unusual quirky stat is he's the latest player ever picked in the national draft at 124th overall in the 1992 AFL draft. So a huge effort to play over 100 AFL games from there. And, of course, he's also won the Foss Williams Medal in 97. Welcome aboard, Brayden.
Thank you, guys. How are we all?
How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for joining us. Well, Malcolm's already read out some pretty impressive statistics there, but with most of our guests, we like to go back to where it all started. Where did you start your juniors, mate? And we'll go from there.
Oh, junior footy was just on the Lefevre Peninsula down at Port Districts. Pretty successful club. They've won a few A1 flags over the last few years.
Yeah, including this year. Yep.
Yeah, so they're having a good period at the moment. But yeah, started down there as a junior in the under 10s or something like that, and spent a few years playing some of the lower levels and the junior grades and things, and then managed to get invited to go out to the Magpies pre-seasons. It was like under 15s, I think, back then. Started off in a pre-season, and things went on from there.
Was that Sandboy Cup then?
Sandboy Cup back in the day, yeah. So I remember going out to a pre-season, and at Seton High School we did some running and some testing and stuff, and I was like, nah, this is way too hard for me. And I went back to Port Districts and sort of quit that, and then went back to Districts, and then halfway through the actual season got invited to come back out, and then ended up staying out there from that year on, and just progressing through the grades. We won a under 19 flag in 1990, which was pretty memorable. We had a reunion a couple of years ago with some of those guys. That was cool. And then managed to go through the ranks there with the Magpies until getting drafted.
Who were some of your coaches through your underages? Because generally what happens with most clubs is some of their past players come back and coach the 15s, 17s, 19s and reserves at times.
Yeah, we had a guy, Malcolm Maiden.
He's been around the traps, yep.
He'd been back in the day. I don't know if your listeners would remember him, but he was around the traps for a while, coaching different levels. Neville Till coached us a little bit through a couple of those grades.
How'd you find Nev?
He's pretty hard guy.
He had a bit of white line fever. He played cricket for Grange, and let's just say,
okay,
he might have been getting on a bit, but geez, he still had that white line fever. He was entertaining. Yes.
Yeah, Keith Spencer, another name people might remember. Those guys were, from that era, they were hard as nails and just demanded the best, and made you work super hard, and had no, and there was no easy way out. And if you weren't stepping up, you just, they wouldn't play you. So, we had some guys coming through that. We all got drafted that in '92. You had Shea, Cockatoo Collins, the Bond boys, Wakelands, Gaffney, Troy Hull. Heaps of guys got drafted that year. We got a photo.
There is a lot, yeah.
Yeah, there was heaps of us that went. Some guys didn't go. Didn't go to their clubs at that stage, and I was one. I stayed for that extra year because I hadn't played league footy, so I wanted to sort of consolidate playing league footy, having grown up in the area and wanting, supporting the Magpies and just watching them win flag year after year. I just wanted to be a part of that before I went anywhere else. But the year that I played in '92. We got to the prelim and that was it. Norwood knocked us off. So
that was a good day. Yep.
Yeah.
That was quite a good game. In all fairness, in '93, the prelim was a good game. Actually.
Yeah.
Grand final
was
it?
Sorry, '93. I said that wrong.
No, that's all right. The grand final was it? Don't worry. As a Norwood supporter, I reckon we were in the bar by about the 10-minute mark of the first quarter, Brayden. It wasn't a cliffhanger. The Eagles were way too strong that day. So
yes. but that was good fun for me, being just to be able to play at that level, and then made the decision to go across after that to West Coast.
Who were some of the Port Adelaide guys that you got to play with? Obviously coming up as a junior, and like you've already mentioned, you supported them a little bit. But who were the players you were still looking up to a little bit as a bright-eyed junior coming into the league side?
Oh, Steve Williams and Darryl Borlase were the two for me. Playing in that midfield sort of role was sort of where I sort of wanted to get to, and they were just exceptional with their training quality and the way they went about it. Darryl Borlase, I just tried to tee myself up with him whenever I had an opportunity to do a training session with the league boys coming through. I was like, right, I'm going to just follow this guy around and try and do what he does. And they just set the standard. So Daisy Borlase was he
never
was
fumbled. He was always so clean.
Super
Daisy.
clean, down low and just balanced, and he just worked super hard. And obviously his kids have got some of those traits now, and they've gone on to bigger and brighter things, which is pretty good to see.
So then you drafted by the Eagles, and back then the draft wasn't a must-see of the event like now. How did you find out that you'd been picked by the Eagles and all that back then?
Bobby Clayton was the team manager at the Magpies, and I just remember I was working as an apprentice electrician, and we just drove down to training after work and going to get stuck into it. And Bobby's like, "Oh, you've been drafted to West Coast." I'm like, "Oh, what does that mean? Do I have to go?" At that stage, but like I said, we had a photo on Albion Oval. I still have it here at home, and it's just all those guys got picked, and some going to Sydney, and then me and Shane were drafted to West Coast. So, we just found out at training. So there was no sitting home watching the draft. And like you mentioned in the intro, like I was probably I was the last one, and I wasn't. It wasn't on TV. It wasn't televised or anything. I mean, it probably was on the radio, but there wasn't that much interest in it. Like, I just didn't think too much about that pathway at that stage. Like I said, I just wanted to play with the Maggies and try and win a flag with them. So that was my goal. But it was a great opportunity and loved it.
Did you get approached? I know these days, they come and meet the family and, they get involved. Obviously back then, did anyone have any conversations at least to say, can we pick you up or?
Not leading into it. Not leading into it. No,
almost a lottery back then.
Yeah. Geez, if I did, it wasn't a big meeting, that's for sure. But I remember Trevor Nisbet and Mick Moylan, who was the manager at West Coast, he was the manager of West Coast at the time. They came over after that, and we met at my mum and dad's place, and had a discussion all about it. And that was when it was sort of the idea was to stay here in Adelaide for another year and consolidate playing league footy, because it was a list of 52, so they didn't really need everybody. And as it turned out, I went and didn't crack it that first year anyway. So, looking back, I probably could have played another season here at SANFL and gone after that. I probably would have been a little bit more ready to get a game, but to move over and to be in that environment with Dean Kemp, Chris Mainwaring, Peter Matera, Bern Jakovic, Worsfold. The list just goes on and on and on. Like, so I don't look back going, they should have played me that first year, because there was some awesome guys, and they were winning flags, winning 92 and 94, and they were a solid team. They were the state team of the competition at that point in time.
What was the difference, between the SANFL and the Waffle? Obviously, going to the AFL, you're probably training standards are a little bit higher, a little bit more professional on a day-to-day basis. What was the difference moving from the SANFL to the Waffle?
Yeah, how would you compare the SANFL and the Waffle? We did this with David Palm, so I'll be interested to get your response here, Brayden.
I don't know. It was probably a bit more open, I feel, like back then, what I remember. Like the grounds were a bit harder and drier, and probably a bit open footy more than here. It's probably a bit more bash and crash back in the day here. That's probably the
Yeah, I'll
main
be
difference
honest.
I can remember.
That's virtually what Palmy said. Where,
Yeah,
especially also because he played for Nord, so Nord on Nord Oval was even more so probably bash and crash smaller oval
yeah,
than Alberton, where he
yeah.
said then all of a sudden you're in the grounds in Perth and they were just bloody huge, sort of thing.
Seemed to
Great
be,
expanses.
So
yeah, a bit wider, and yeah, just the ball was just a little bit different style, I suppose, to play some of those grounds. Like we played at the Wacker a little bit as well, and that's just a circle. So you had pretty wide wings and
yeah,
not that far between the goals. So it was a little bit different. But I really enjoyed my time at East Perth. That was a super club. I had no idea about the waffle. I
yeah,
didn't see any, wouldn't have watched any games on TV or seen anything. And I knew a few of the names that had gone on from there, Cable and Farmer and some
yeah.
of those guys, but I didn't watch any of the games. So I didn't know any of the competition that well. And he just got sent to, to the club that was
Yeah, the mini
you were
draft.
allocated,
Yeah.
in that mini draft. And the history of the Royals East Perth is extensive. So it was good to get involved in that culture, and they welcomed me with open arms, and it was awesome to be down there. You'd train a week at West Coast, and then you'd go back there, and after selection, you'd train on the Thursday night and get around the guys, and a good bunch of lads. And we played in the flag, win a premiership. We didn't win at Claremont, knocked us off, but that was a good experience to bring the club up, and playing in a grand final was pretty exciting. So just weren't lucky enough to win.
Well, you
one
played
for 'em.
39 games too for him, so it wasn't like it was just one or two, a few games. So, you reasonable amount of experience there. And then
Yeah,
go through your debut for West Coast. I think it was against Carlton on memory. I think I'd read earlier on memory. Was it
was
Carlton?
against Carlton
Yeah,
at in Melbourne. Didn't get a lot of game time. Come on late and managed to jag a bit of a hanger, but I think I had my eyes shut. But
Nothing wrong with that.
got hold of one, which was a good memory. That was my first touch. It was good to get that under the belt, and like I said, just to break into that team
Oh,
with the caliber of people was great, and the midfield was exceptional.
yeah.
It was an unreal mid.
Good luck breaking into that midfield. Cousins, Jay, etc. Was Judd still there then, or So
No,
he'd just gone, hadn't he?
Yeah,
Just gone back.
Yeah, we had like Chris Lewis, Worsfold,
The
Don
silent
Pike
assassin
was
Yep.
there, Tony Evans.
Yep.
I mentioned Wayne Waring, Matera. Daryl Hart was another name.
Good steady player. Yep.
Just some solid guys and players going through there. So to finally break in was pretty exciting, and I was in and out. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
I consolidated for a little while, and then you form waivers a bit, and then back to the waffle, and that's why I played so many at East Perth. I was sort of in and out for those 26 games, but managed to, I was around when they won the '94 flag. That was a pretty exciting time. Being in Melbourne and being a part of that build up and all of that. That was pretty memorable. And then '95 managed to play a few games early, and then I played a few finals games. I remember a game against North Melbourne and an Essendon final in Melbourne, big crowds and pretty exciting to be involved in that. And then the trade come about to get back here.
I'll tell you what, one thing though, like you could say playing in that West Coast side, if you're picking a best ever team in terms of wingmen, Mainwaring, the late Chris Mainwaring and Matera, you think Matera kicking six on a wing, and they're pretty incredible too, wingmen. So good luck if you're trying to get a spot as a wingman. So,
No, I was just happy to come in anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't where they were going to play.
Exactly.
I didn't care, but Big Moldhouse was pretty hard taskmaster at that sort of time, and and he had some good players at his disposal, so he was he had a lot of success there, which was great.
Did you find being around those guys was beneficial to your game longer term? Obviously, as a young fella, you're sort of in awe a little bit and trying to learn as much as possible. But as you sort of get more and more confident and you're getting a few more games, was it much easier to sort of look at those guys and go, hey, I can be at that level if I do this, this, and this?
that training standard. So I just went about it, and I was like, I just got to get fit and strong, and I just trained my ass off. And I think it definitely helped me to come back when Port were formed. Hadn't been training with those guys to that level was like they had the best of everything. At that early stage, they one team town, and they had all the specialist coaches and everything was thrown at them, and we had some good facilities and good coaching, and I just immersed myself in that, and I enjoyed that part of the footy. I love pre-seasons. You hear a lot of guys going, "Oh, I hate pre-seasons," but I loved it. I couldn't wait to get out there and run and get fitter and just try and win some of those races and the time trials and just put my hand up and say, look, I'm fit, I'm ready to go. I can't kick footy, but I'm fit at least.
I might have got Cornsey on that one on air. There was a thing about Kane's run, from Melbourne to Adelaide, and I've gone, Cornsey, I could do that. And he started to go, who do you think you are, sort of thing. And I've replied with, in a car. So,
some guys love it, some guys don't. But if you can, like you said again in the intro, like I wasn't on the radar to anyone else at that time. Maybe they picked me, West Coast picked me to sort of just help Shane Bond along a little bit. Maybe if they thought I would be a good solid base for him and keep him on track. And we billeted, well, not billeted, but we shared a house together over there. And so maybe I was just drafted to chaperone him around and being a bit older than him. Maybe that helped him because he managed to crack the team and get straight into it. And
he played in a flag, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he played in '94, which was amazing. And he's a ripper guy. You should have him on the show. He's barrel of laughs, and
they are characters, the Bond boys.
They are. So we had some super fun times over there, and then to get traded back to the Power where we both started, and being involved in that inaugural squad and being a part of some of the things we did. Like, I look back, like we had involvement in the club song.
I was going to ask you that. What was your involvement? Because it said you had involvement in the Guernsey and the song. So what was that?
Which was great for the club to do that. They just brought us in to some of those meetings and some of those times when they were trying to organise things. And I remember back at Alberton, Brian Cunningham had his office there. Mick Moreland had moved to the Power to help them set up, and we got called in the office and they played us like 3 or 4 different songs that they were thinking about choosing, and we just got to be involved in some of those decisions. Whether our influence changed any of their decisions, I don't know, but at least we had a good idea a little bit about what was going on.
Can you remember what any of the others were?
Some banjo or something, I don't know. I don't know. There could have been some shockers, but I suppose that probably just got us invested in the club too.
Yeah, it's fair.
Looking back, and you get to be a part of some of the other decisions and off-field stuff. It just, you probably just go, well, okay, I'm part of this club, and it connects you even stronger with it. So,
the little girl who did the Port Guernsey in the end sat next to my son, and it was, I reckon they were in grade 2 or grade 3, and the bit out of that, it was a competition, to design the Power Guernsey.
Yeah.
And she took it from, her dad had a Australian rugby top, so she just coloured it in that way, and that's how that got chosen.
Okay. Yeah, well, I didn't know that, but I do remember seeing a few different options, and and obviously having a bit of a vote on it and stuff. So, that's a great story for her, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it was funny too. Came out only talking to them. The family, they were actually Geelong supporters, but they won Port. They won Port tickets for life. So that was it. That was the end of the Cats after that. So
yeah, right. That's cool.
Mate, we glossed over it a little bit here. Before you arrived at the Power, you did sort of mention that you had a housemate there. Come on, you got to give us a story or two that you boys would have got up to.
Yeah.
Oh, me and Bondi?
Yeah.
Oh, we did all sorts of crazy stuff. Scarborough in Western Australia is a bit of a happening place, and Shane bought a unit over there. So Shane had a girlfriend, and my girlfriend had moved over, who I'm married to now. She moved over from Adelaide, and we just had some good times. Like, people talk about, and it's been a bit of an issue last year, about the travel back to West Coast from Melbourne playing games, and Longmire from Freo had a bit of a Longmuir had a bit of a talk about it during the media about travel and the gather round and all that. But we love traveling from Melbourne back to Perth. We had a great time. You'd have a couple of beers and you'd get on the plane and have a drink or two, and you'd be back in Perth, and straight off the plane you'd be down to the nightclub in Northbridge and having a great old time. So I didn't mind it at all. So me and Shane used to have a really good time together, and it just brought the boys close.
I'm sure if those walls could talk, they'd have many, many stories.
I can't disclose too many things.
No, we understand that.
Well, you're still with Paula, though, so you must have done something right there too, by the way. So, yes. In terms of then, so you're back at Port. Now, you're vice-captain, and you've ended up captaining Port, their inaugural game against Collingwood. How was that experience, mate?
Yeah, that was amazing. We've talked about my junior history and stuff, and growing up, supporting the club, and wanting to be a part of it. And then, it was just a little bit unlucky for Gavin, I suppose, at that first inaugural game, given the duty to captain, because he was out, because he got suspended for something. In a pre-season game, bumping into an umpire, so he had to sit out that one. But I suppose it's given me a bit of an opportunity to be a part of history. We went into all those games thinking we were going to win. That first game against Collingwood blew out a little bit, and talking about Shane before, I think Bucks took a hanger on him on the wing, which Bucks has got a big photo. Nathan Buckley's got a big photo of that in his bedroom, I reckon. But first game didn't go away, but we knew we weren't far away. Like, it was going to happen, and ended up our first win against Geelong. That's right. It was pretty amazing. And then we had a win in Melbourne against the Bulldogs, and
you won your first showdown. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, that showdown was that was, for me, that was a bit of a pinnacle at that stage, because the Crows have obviously been in for a while and had been doing their thing. I think we turned their season around. They just went on to win that flag that year, and probably after we beat them, they got into gear and away they went. But
a certain player called Sean Wren came back the following week, and I tell you what, there you can make the argument on him as important as any player in footy history. He's injured. The Crows were shithouse. He comes back.
They win a
premiership. They win 2 flags. He gets injured again, and they're shithouse again.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah,
really.
The barometer, hey.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. That history with him, with that centre bounce disc that they put in at Footy Park back then, and that was horrific. But he was a great champion. I've met him a few times and at different functions and stuff. He's a ripper lad.
So you did well with your Port 2 game, your 2 seasons where you've won the best team man in your first 2 years. That's certainly a pinnacle where you should be very, very proud of, mate.
Yeah, it was a good award. Obviously named after Foss Williams as well, and chosen by the players. So I think some of those awards that the players and coaches pick, and that's who you want to impress and who you want to get the respect from. So they were good awards, and I suppose I had a pretty good standard of training, having, like we mentioned, about learning how to train and expectations and standards at West Coast. So I already had that grounding. So I was about trying to pass some of that information and knowledge on to the younger guys, like Treaders and Dewey and Pete Burgoyne and some of those young kids that were in that inaugural squad. They were only young little fellas, and I suppose I just set a standard, and looking back, you hope that it influenced the way they went about things and set them up to bigger and brighter things.
Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier there that you went into your first season sort of not expecting to win games, or all the games, but a good chunk of them. Was part of that to do with John Cale? Because we've had a few Port people on here, and they've obviously said that in the SNFL level, but I'm assuming he ramped it up a little bit more for the AFL level, and that's what got you guys really going, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Like, he just knew how to pump you up. Like, there's some old stories floating around about Jack. Like, he would come there on a Thursday night and say, I've got you in the team this week, but the chairman and selectors didn't want you in. Yeah. But I wanted you in, and next week you're going to be in, sort of thing, and you just go, Jack wants me in the team. This is pretty cool. And then he just made you stand taller, and just had the gift of the gab, I suppose. Being a car salesman, he knew how to lift you up and speak to young men and get the best out of them. So you definitely walked taller when Jack addressed you, and and said some wise things, having had that experience from the SNFL.
As Timmy G said, he was the master at selling bullshit. That he'd convince you that you
could walk on water,
and you were going to beat John Platten on the way. And you think back now and think, well, no, logic said, there's Adrian Cetre playing reserves, comes up and plays well, very important part of a league premiership side, really because of the crap Jack had managed to sell to him, convince him, and that's where Port, to their credit, won flags when they weren't the best side in terms of ability, but the game's not played on paper, and Jack's ability to sell was a huge part of Port's success.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.